Ali Nasser Abulabin was born in 1992, the son of Palestinian immigrants who had left the Middle East to start anew in the United States. He grew up in Virginia, surrounded by the complexities of being a first-generation American, one foot in the culture of his parents, steeped in tradition and expectations, and the other in the fast, unpredictable rhythm of American youth. By all accounts, Ali was a charismatic child, energetic, funny, and eager to stand out. He had a talent for mimicry, a sharp eye for people's quirks, and an ability to capture attention with little more than his voice and presence. He was also ambitious. Teachers remembered him as someone who wanted to be seen, who could turn a dull classroom into a performance stage if the moment allowed. Yet beneath that charisma, there was always a hunger, a desire for recognition that went beyond ordinary childhood confidence. Ali craved validation, and in the era of social media, that craving found fertile ground. As a teenager, Ali immersed himself in internet culture. YouTube was exploding, Vine was reshaping comedy into 6-second bursts, and memes were the language of his generation. He consumed it all, studying what made audiences laugh, what made content go viral, and how ordinary people could transform into internet celebrities overnight. Fame, once reserved for Hollywood stars or athletes, now seemed accessible, and Ali wanted it. It was this hunger that later birthed Jin Kid, the persona that would define his online career. By the late 2010s, TikTok had emerged as the new giant of social media, a platform where comedy, dance, and lip-syncing clips could spread globally within hours. Ali saw the opportunity instantly. He began posting skits, impersonations, and comedic bits that showcased his sharp timing and talent for mimicry. His impressions of Tony Montana from Scarface, Al Pacino, and other pop culture icons struck a chord with viewers. His content was fast, punchy, and funny, tailor-made for TikTok's endless scroll. By 2020, Ali had amassed close to 1 million followers. His videos were shared across platforms, and fans praised his wit, charm, and creativity. He wasn't just another TikTok clown. He had presence, the kind of magnetism that made people believe he was destined for something bigger. In his skits, Ali appeared confident, larger than life, untouchable. To his followers, he was proof of the American dream, a young father and husband who had turned his comedic gift into viral fame. Behind the camera, his life seemed equally enviable. Ali had married a young woman named Anna Marie Abulabin, a bright and beautiful woman who had grown up in San Diego. Anna had a kind presence, a warmth that balanced Ali's brash energy. She had been captivated by his charisma when they first met, the way he could light up a room, the way he spoke with conviction, the way he made her laugh. They married and soon had a daughter together, a little girl who became the center of Anna's world. On social media, Ali often presented himself as a devoted husband and father. He posted videos featuring Anna and their daughter, painting a portrait of domestic bliss. Fans adored the idea of Jin Kid as not just a comedian, but a family man. In the curated highlight reel of TikTok, Ali and Anna's life looked perfect: laughter, playful skits, and the smiling faces of a young couple building a future together. But like so many carefully constructed online personas, the reality behind the screen was far more complicated. Anna's friends and relatives began to notice that her laughter in those videos sometimes seemed strained, that her life behind closed doors was not as carefree as the content suggested. Ali's hunger for recognition bled into his marriage. He wanted Anna to play the role of the supportive, beautiful wife in his growing empire, but he also wanted control. He expected loyalty, obedience, and admiration at all times. When Anna failed to provide those things, tensions erupted. Ali could be charming, yes, but he could also be volatile. His need for validation made him quick to anger when he felt disrespected or dismissed. Arguments between the couple escalated over time, with Anna confiding in friends that she felt suffocated. She loved her daughter, and she had once loved Ali, but the man she lived with was not always the charismatic TikTok star the world adored. Behind closed doors, he was jealous, controlling, sometimes cruel. Still, Anna tried to make it work. She wanted stability for her daughter, and she clung to the hope that Ali might change. There were good days, after all, days when his charm returned, when he was the man she had fallen in love with. But the cycle of volatility and reconciliation wore her down. By 2021, the cracks in their marriage had deepened. Anna began voicing her unhappiness more openly. She wanted space. She wanted a chance to breathe outside of Ali's control. For Ali, the thought of losing her was intolerable. His entire persona, the funny man, the family man, the success story, depended on the illusion of a happy marriage. To admit that his wife wanted to leave was not just a personal rejection. It was a public humiliation. In September 2021, Anna told Ali to move out. The decision devastated him. He begged her to reconsider, pleaded that they could fix things, promised change. But Anna stood firm. She needed time away from him. She needed peace. Ali packed his things and left their apartment in San Diego, but the separation gnawed at him. For someone like Ali, who had built his identity on being adored, Anna's rejection was unbearable. He spiraled into obsession, monitoring her every move, desperate to know if she was seeing someone else. He convinced himself that she was slipping away not just as a wife, but as a possession he was losing control over. His love twisted into rage, his charisma into menace. It was during this time that Ali began plotting. He wasn't ready to let Anna go. He wasn't ready to accept the humiliation of losing her to another man. And in his mind, if he couldn't have her, no one else could either. The story that had begun as a TikTok fairy tale, the rise of Jin Kid, the handsome comedian with the beautiful wife and daughter, was hurtling toward tragedy. Fame had given Ali an audience, but it had also fed the darker parts of his nature, his hunger for control, his obsession with image, his inability to handle rejection. And by October 2021, those darker impulses would explode in an act of violence that shocked his fans, shattered his family, and left Anna and another man dead on the floor of a San Diego apartment. By the summer of 2021, the glossy portrait of Ali and Anna's marriage had begun to peel away. The skits and family clips on TikTok painted the picture of harmony, but behind the scenes, their home was fraught with tension. Arguments erupted more frequently, often over jealousy, control, and Anna's growing desire for independence. Friends would later testify that Anna had confided in them repeatedly. She loved her daughter, but she was exhausted by Ali's volatility. Anna wanted something simple: peace, stability, and the ability to breathe without being scrutinized. Ali, however, couldn't fathom letting go. His fame as Jin Kid had inflated his ego, but it had also made him insecure. In the public eye, he was the funny, lovable TikTok star, adored by fans across the world. In private, he was terrified of losing the woman who had once validated him more than any follower count ever could. The conflict between them grew sharper. Neighbors later recalled hearing arguments through the walls, heated exchanges punctuated by Anna's pleas for calm and Ali's angry voice cutting through. Their daughter, just 5 years old, was often caught in the middle, forced to witness the fractures in the only world she knew. By September, Anna made the decision that she could no longer endure. She asked Ali to move out of their high-rise apartment in San Diego. It was a bold step, one that signaled she was ready to draw boundaries. For Ali, the request was devastating. He agreed reluctantly, but the rejection festered in him like an open wound. When he packed his belongings and left, Ali wasn't just leaving a home. He was leaving behind control. The apartment became Anna's space, a refuge where she could begin to imagine a life without him. But Ali wasn't ready to let her go. He checked in constantly, calling, texting, and demanding to know her whereabouts. He oscillated between begging her to reconcile and lashing out in anger when she resisted. Anna confided in friends that she felt trapped. She wanted freedom, but she feared what Ali might do if she pushed too hard. His behavior was unpredictable, his moods volatile. She told one friend that he had been verbally abusive, controlling her finances, dictating her social life, and accusing her of betrayal whenever she tried to assert independence. For Ali, separation felt like humiliation. In his mind, Anna wasn't just a wife who wanted space. She was betraying him. The thought that she might be moving on, that another man might be spending time in what he still considered his apartment, not at him day and night. It was in this volatile emotional state that Ali crossed the line into surveillance. He secretly installed a listening app on his young daughter's iPad, turning the innocent device into a tool for spying. Through it, he could listen to conversations in the apartment, eavesdropping on Anna's private moments. To Ollie, it was a way to regain control, to confirm his suspicions. To Anna, though she didn't know it yet, it meant she no longer had sanctuary, even within the walls of her own home. The more Ollie listened, the more his paranoia deepened. Every voice he overheard, every laugh, every phone call became evidence in his mind of betrayal. His imagination painted Anna as already gone, already with someone else. Anna, meanwhile, was trying to move forward. Friends encouraged her to reclaim her independence, to rediscover who she was outside of her marriage. On October 21st, 2021, she invited a friend, 29-year-old Rayburn Barron, to the apartment. Barron was not some secret lover in Anna's narrative, but in Ollie's mind, the presence of another man was the final straw. Listening through the iPad, Ollie heard voices in the apartment, laughter that wasn't his. The image of Anna moving on crystallized into a vision he could not tolerate. Ollie snapped. He left wherever he was staying, climbed into his car, and drove toward the high-rise apartment. On the way, rage simmered in him, mixing with the sense of betrayal that had been building for months. He wasn't just a husband confronting a wife. He was, in his mind, a man reclaiming control, teaching Anna a lesson for humiliating him to the apartment building. Ollie used the key. He still had to let himself in. It was late morning. Anna and Barron were inside, unsuspecting, living in what they thought was a private moment. Ollie entered quietly, his anger boiling over into something lethal. What happened next would horrify even seasoned detectives. The morning of October 21st, 2021, began unremarkably in downtown San Diego. The sky was a muted blue, the city still shaking off its early haze, and traffic hummed along Interstate 5 as thousands went about their ordinary routines. Inside the Spire San Diego luxury high-rise apartment complex, Anna Abulabin tried to carve out some sense of normalcy for herself and her 5-year-old daughter. The apartment, with its sweeping views of the bay, should have been a sanctuary, a place where Anna could breathe, away from the volatility of her estranged husband, Ollie. But Anna wasn't truly free. She had asked Ollie to move out in September, yet his presence lingered everywhere. His belongings had only recently been removed. His messages and calls still flashed on her phone, sometimes pleading, sometimes threatening. And though she didn't know it, the iPad her daughter carried had been turned into a spy device. Ollie had secretly installed an app that allowed him to listen in on conversations inside the apartment. That morning, Anna wasn't alone. With her was 29-year-old Rayburn Barron, a friend whose presence brought her comfort. They spent the late morning together, talking, laughing, sharing a moment of companionship in the middle of the chaos that had defined her life for months. But what Anna experienced as a small reprieve was, for Ollie, an unforgivable betrayal. Through the iPad, Ollie listened. He heard the voices, Anna's familiar tone, and another man's deeper laugh. Each sound twisted his mind tighter, fueling the paranoia that had been growing ever since Anna asked him to leave. In Ollie's mind, this was confirmation. Anna had moved on. She wasn't just separating. She was replacing him. And that was something his pride, his ego, and his obsession could not endure. Ollie climbed into his car, fury coursing through him. The drive to Spire San Diego was only a few miles, but every red light, every slow vehicle in his way, seemed to deepen his rage. His thoughts circled the same track: betrayal, humiliation, revenge. To him, Anna was no longer his wife. She was his property, slipping into the arms of another man. And in Ollie's warped perspective, if he couldn't have her, no one could. Arriving at the high-rise, Ollie carried with him the keycard he had never returned. He entered the lobby like any other resident, his appearance calm enough not to arouse suspicion. The elevators carried him upward, each ding of the passing floors a countdown to the moment he had already decided upon. When the doors opened onto Anna's floor, Ollie stepped into the hallway, his jaw set. His mind locked on what he believed he had to do. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. What happened next unfolded in seconds, but would ripple for years. According to prosecutors, Ollie confronted Anna and Rayburn in the living room. Words may have been exchanged, though no one alive could recount them in detail. Ollie pulled out a gun, a weapon he had brought with purpose, and fired, first at Rayburn, who had no chance to react, struck by multiple bullets. Then at Anna, who faced the man she had once married, now transformed into her executioner. Multiple rounds tore through the apartment, shattering the illusion of safety Anna had hoped to build. Within moments, both she and Rayburn lay dead on the floor, their lives extinguished in the place that was supposed to be home. The silence after the gunfire was heavy, punctuated only by the ringing in Ali's ears. He looked at what he had done, his wife, the mother of his daughter, and the man he believed was her lover, lifeless before him. But instead of breaking down, instead of panicking, Ali turned and walked away. To him, the act was done. The control he had lost, he had now reclaimed through violence. What followed was perhaps the most chilling detail of all. Ali drove directly to his daughter's school. There, as though nothing had happened, he picked her up. Teachers and staff saw only a father retrieving his child, unaware that minutes earlier he had killed the girl's mother. Ali placed his daughter in the car, his demeanor calm, and drove off. But inside, cracks were already forming. He called his mother, confessing to what he had done. He told her about Anna, about Rayburn, about the rage that had consumed him. He admitted to the murders with the same bluntness he once used to deliver punchlines in his TikTok skits. To his mother, the confession was devastating, but it was also the first step toward his capture. Police were alerted, and by late afternoon, Ali was located driving on the interstate. Officers conducted a high-risk stop, pulling him over and taking him into custody without incident. His daughter was in the car, unharmed, a silent witness to the aftermath of a double homicide. Back at the apartment, detectives and forensic teams swarmed the crime scene. The bodies of Anna and Rayburn were found in the living room, surrounded by evidence of sudden, brutal violence. Neighbors, stunned by the police presence, gathered in hallways and outside the building, whispering in disbelief. To them, Anna had been a kind, loving mother, and Ali had been a social media star, funny, magnetic, seemingly successful. The reality that he had murdered his wife and another man was incomprehensible. AS news broke. Shockwaves spread through the online world. Fans of Jin Kid, who had laughed at his skits and shared his videos, struggled to reconcile the man they saw on TikTok with the accused killer in mugshots. Comment sections filled with disbelief, sorrow, and anger. Some refused to believe it at first, thinking it must be a mistake. But as details emerged, the listening device, the jealousy, the cold execution, the horror became undeniable. Ali Abulabin was booked into the San Diego Central Jail and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Prosecutors announced they would seek the maximum penalty, life in prison without the possibility of parole. The story of Jin Kid, the funny man, the rising TikTok star, the internet comedian with a young family, had curdled into a true crime tragedy. For Anna's friends and family, there was no viral comedy to soften the grief. There was only the reality that a young mother, desperate to free herself from control, had been silenced forever. For Rayburn Barron's family, there was the shock of a son and friend cut down simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And for Ali's daughter, there was a future forever altered, one parent murdered, the other in prison, and innocence stolen before she was old enough to fully understand. The trial ahead promised to reveal more, the depths of Ali's control, the moments that led Anna to seek freedom, and the details of the jealousy that had metastasized into murder. But on October 21st, 2021, the story had already reached its darkest point. A young woman and her friend dead, a child without her mother, and a man whose hunger for control had destroyed everything he once claimed to love. The courtroom was hushed the first time Ali Abulabin was led inside in a prison jumpsuit, shackled at the wrists and ankles. The man who had once entertained nearly 1 million TikTok followers with quick-witted impersonations and goofy skits was now a murder defendant, facing life in prison for the execution-style killings of his wife, Anna, and her friend, Rayburn Barron. Reporters filled the benches. Fans followed the case online, horrified and transfixed. For the families of the victims, the trial was not spectacle but agony, each new detail reopening wounds that had barely begun to scab over. The prosecution built its case methodically. Deputy District Attorney Taryn Brast described Ali as a jealous, controlling husband who refused to accept that Anna wanted to leave him. She painted a picture of obsession, the spying through the iPad, the constant accusations, the refusal to let Anna live freely. When Anna finally drew a boundary, prosecutors argued, Ali decided to erase it with violence. They described how he had entered the apartment, pulled a gun, and shot Rayburn once in the neck and twice in the head, then turned the weapon on Anna, striking her 3 times, including once in the head. Each shot was deliberate, prosecutors said, proof of premeditated murder. The defense, led by Deputy Public Defender Whitney Antrim, countered with a different narrative. They did not deny that Ali had pulled the trigger. Instead, they sought to frame him as a man consumed by emotional turmoil, spiraling under the weight of marital collapse, mental health struggles, and a desperate fear of losing his family. They spoke of depression, paranoia, and the crushing reality of fame's fleeting glow. Ali, they argued, was not a cold-blooded killer but a broken man who snapped. But the evidence was stark. The listening app on his daughter's iPad demonstrated planning. His possession of a firearm in violation of the restraining order showed intent. His calm pickup of his daughter after the murders revealed chilling composure. The prosecution's portrait of a man who had decided, in advance, to punish Anna for leaving him was persuasive. Family members testified tearfully. Anna's relatives spoke of her kindness, her devotion to her daughter, and her growing desperation to escape a marriage that had become suffocating. Friends recalled how she had confided in them about Ali's controlling behavior, about her fear that he would never let her go. Rayburn's loved ones described a man who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time, cut down simply because he happened to be with Anna that morning. The most haunting testimonies, however, came from investigators who described the crime scene. The apartment where a child once played was reduced to a tableau of violence. Blood pooled on the carpet. Bullet casings littered the floor. The images, shown to the jury in graphic detail, were unbearable for Anna's family, who wept openly in court. Ali himself sat through the proceedings with shifting expressions. Sometimes he appeared somber, head bowed. Other times he looked angry, defiant, as though still unwilling to accept responsibility. He did not testify, but his recorded confessions, to his mother, to police, echoed through the courtroom. In them, he admitted to pulling the trigger, justifying his actions as the product of betrayal. When closing arguments came, the prosecution urged the jury to see past the TikTok persona, past the charisma, past the excuses. This was not a man who lost control, Brass said. This was a man who made a choice. He planned, he spied, he armed himself, and he executed 2 people in cold blood. The defense pleaded for nuance, for recognition of the human flaws behind the tragedy. But nuance was no comfort to the families who had lost loved ones, nor to the jury tasked with weighing the evidence. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty verdicts on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Ali Abulabin, once known to millions as Jin Kid, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence meant he would never again walk free, never again film skits for an audience, never again reclaim the family he had destroyed with his own hands. For Anna's family, the verdict was justice, though not closure. They mourned a daughter, a sister, a mother whose life had been cut short in her prime. For Rayburn's family, it was a recognition that his life, too, mattered, that his death was not collateral damage but an act of murder that demanded accountability. For Ali's daughter, the verdict sealed her fate as the child of both a victim and a killer. A girl who would grow up without her mother and with only the shadow of her father. The case rippled far beyond the courtroom. It became a cautionary tale about the hidden darkness behind curated social media personas. Fans who had once laughed at Ali's TikToks replayed them now with unease, searching for clues they had missed, wondering how a man so funny on screen could be so violent in life. Domestic violence advocates used the case to highlight the dangers of controlling relationships, the importance of listening to women when they say they feel unsafe, and the lethal consequences of ignoring red flags. Ali's downfall also raised uncomfortable questions about fame and ego. TikTok had given him validation, attention, and a platform, but it had also magnified his insecurities. The hunger for admiration that drove him online mirrored the hunger for control that destroyed his marriage. In the end, both pursuits consumed him. Years later, the tragedy still echoes. In San Diego, Anna and Rayburn are remembered not for the way they died, but for the lives they lived. Anna as a devoted mother whose smile lit up every room. Rayburn as a loyal friend with a kind heart. Their absence remains a wound for their families, one that no verdict can fully heal. And in a prison cell, Ali Abulabin lives with the consequences of his actions, stripped of his stage, his audience, and the family he once claimed to love. The man who craved recognition achieved it, but not in the way he dreamed. Instead of fame, he became infamous, a reminder of how quickly charm can curdle into control and how the masks people wear online can hide the darkest truths of all.